the
Okay.
same?
Yeah, it should be. It should be. I'm live now. See, now it says that I'm live. So
Okay.
that's what it was.
Let me open it.
There we go.
There we go. All right.
You see it?
Yes.
Good.
Sharing now. Sharing all my things. Okay.
Hey guys, welcome to Food for the Soul Intimate Conversations with your girl Talitha Kume, and I am Talitha Kume, and we are live on our Food for the Soul FB page, finally, courtesy of StreamYard. And if you guys haven't already, go like our page and follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube stations, Intimate Conversations and Food for the Soul Media Group, you guys. And she is back. We are here with my special guest, the one and only guest therapist, Tiffany Lindley of
Hello.
Tiffany Lane Counseling Services. Hey, Tiff, what's up?
Hey, hey, Talitha. Thank you for inviting
Hey.
me again.
And thank you for coming on again. And remember, you guys, if you guys want to be a part of our conversation, you can do so by commenting on our live in the comment section. And I'll try and get to as many comments or questions as I possibly can, you guys. And so I am back for the summertime. And as you guys know, some of you all who follow me, watch me before, I typically theme my months just because I like to have everything centered around one theme, and it's just kind of easier for me to really kind of pull some things out and talk about some really much needed conversation. And so this June, my theme for the month is called Cruel Summer, y'all. It's a cruel summer. It's going to be a cruel summer. It started off whack, and I'm hoping and praying that it might get a little bit better. But that's my theme for the month. So tonight's show, we're talking about dark days, as you guys saw in my post, and like what to do in these dark days, you guys. And before we get started, I want Tiffany to tell us again a little bit about her services and what she does. Hey, Terry.
Hey, okay. So, Epiphany Lane Counseling, I've been around since 2018, and I do individual, couple, and youth therapy. So, kids all the way up from 3 to 17. And my goal with my practice is to really help people find their purpose and really put them back on a path that's getting them where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be, with mental health conditions or not. It can just be relationship issues. But whatever you have that's keeping you from being who you know you can be, that's what I want to help you with as a counselor. And
Okay.
so I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I use co-working spaces. I'm all about making therapy normalized. So there's locations close to you. I'll meet you there versus everybody coming to where I am.
Right.
And
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and if
Mhm.
for a nominal fee, I would even do sessions in home or workspaces, whatever the client is comfortable with. And that's the kind of therapy I like to do.
Okay.
So yeah.
So why did you choose to do like more of a mobile therapy versus doing having an office building? Is it because it's just kind of too stuffy, you think?
Well, it's my experience. I've worked in nonprofits and I've worked in community-based services for 12 years, and
Okay.
most of my work has been in the community, whether it's at schools, in classrooms, in hospitals, but it's never just in a traditional office space. Eventually, I'll get there once I have a group, but while it's me and while it's still on my back, I want to
Mhm.
go where the people are because that's where I learned how to do what I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And
it's convenient.
I can do with that. Well, yeah, it is convenient for us. So we're
Yep.
like, yeah, we'll pay a little bit more for you to come on to my house, please.
Yeah,
But I don't have to go
you don't
anywhere.
even have to feed me. You don't even have
Yeah.
to. But most of my clients did. But you don't have to.
See, that's what it's so it's beneficial for you on both ends. So you're getting paid and you're getting food. So that's awesome.
That's just being culturally competent. That's rude to reject somebody's meal, right?
It really, really is. And so we want to make you
Mm.
feel comfortable while you tell us what's wrong with us. Um,
I see how you slipped that in there. I wasn't ready. I
Yeah,
was like,
why
wait,
you telling us
whoa.
what's wrong with us? So my
Mm-mm.
conversation was originally, Tiffany, was supposed to be about COVID-19 and how
Mm-hmm.
some people are suffering from anxiety and depression, having to deal with the death of their loved ones or friends, and now we got to add, we're dealing with
I mean,
all,
social unrest. Let's just call it that,
yeah.
because it's hard to even put a name to it right now.
Man, we the countries that are looting, rioting, the social divide against the black and the blue. And it's a lot. And so I wanted to, before you get into what you want to say, I just wanted to look at a couple of statistics that I found about
Okay.
all, like everybody's emotions and things that are going on in this COVID, right? So it says since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic and isolation efforts in March, Americans have been reporting increasing pressure on their mental health. According to research from Healthline conducted through YouGov's COVID-19 tracker, whether it's because they've lost their job or fear losing one, they're struggling to piece together money to pay bills, or they're worried about their health and safety, or that of everyone in their house. The continuous onslaught of worry and insecurity is leading to greater mental health issues than before. It says today, Americans are reporting more symptoms and signs of depression, anxiety, and fear than historic norms. What's more, the same Healthline poll found that this increase has been sustained for several weeks and showing no signs yet of fading. And now, of course, with this other stuff, of course, it's not going to fade. So it says 3 in 5 Americans reported that they fear they'll contract the virus, according to YouGov's government tracker. The effects of this fear may not be felt equally in all groups. Women are actually reporting being concerned more than men, 64% of women to 55% men. Not surprisingly, perhaps people with pre existing health issues, of course, are also at a higher rate of fear and anxiety. Hispanic people were nearly twice as likely to say that they're very scared compared to white people, 29% of Hispanic, 16% of white people, and then 26% of black people were very scared also in the survey. And then it says surprisingly, people in our younger groups are more likely to rate themselves as being kind of very scared of getting sick. And then it says 22% of adults 18 to 34 years old said that they're very scared as well of getting sick. And also 55 plus adults are saying that they're scared as well. So first, what I want to ask you, Tiff, is what are your thoughts about the COVID? What when it first came out, what what was going
Oh
on in your
my
head?
gosh.
Hmm.
Well, it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing for
Hmm.
sure. Like this is something that hasn't happened literally in 100 years. The last time it happened was with the Great Spanish Flu back in like the early like 1920 or 1921.
You hear
But
me?
for me personally, I was traveling before COVID
Hmm.
and traveling to hotspots. I was in New Orleans for my older sister's 50th birthday. We had a wonderful time. And
Okay.
then the next week, I went on a trip to Colorado with my job for like a retreat. And so those two trips, it's like right after I got back, they were like, "Oh, there's a spike, or there's some suggested, um,
Right.
possible outbreak." And I have lupus, which is an autoimmune disease.
Okay.
So the week after I got back, I self quarantined at least for that week because
Right.
I have low immunity and I'm more susceptible, and also have an elderly parent. And
Okay.
so it was less of fear, just more of cautiousness,
Hmm.
and just wanting to be smart about things and just kind
Yeah.
of preparing for, okay, I'm working from home probably for the next few months. Let me figure out what that's going to be. But as
Right.
far as just like the increased fear and the increased anxiety, it's normal, it's typical, it's what humans are supposed to do because we're always trying to solve problems, and that's what anxiety does. It says
Okay.
there's an issue, I need to figure out what the next step is. But when you are told okay, well, it's going to be the 15th of May. It's going to be the 1st of June, like, the day they were supposed to be let out. It's like confinement. It's like, being in a prison, but it's your own home. And then
Right.
to add on top of that, like job security and all
Yes.
of the industries that we really took for granted, the essential jobs, teachers,
Oh man,
how
we did.
schools work. I mean, I feel
Gosh.
like, we could have been prepared for this, and
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't, it really made it that much worse, because now people are not only resentful of the government for not having a plan, but they're
Right.
also, self-blaming, even though it's like, hey, you chose to work in a restaurant, you didn't think that this would happen. You can't be mad at yourself for choosing a
Right.
job that would be obsolete. And then some businesses not being prepared, like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can self-blame for that, but not really, not for that long, because you didn't have control over it. You've
Right.
had there are like some restaurants in Dallas been around 30, 40 years, but they don't have online, they don't do DoorDash, they don't have that kind of
Wow.
flexibility. And so some things are like being played out, and like becoming like a relic almost, and that's kind of sad too. But it's
It's
the the
scary.
the big thing is that we're all grieving something, because grief
Yes.
is just loss. It doesn't necessarily mean death. We're losing our normalcy, we're losing our control. And so that collective feeling of sadness and loss is also a time for us to reflect, and find value in things. So
Hmm.
being cautious, understanding that the emotions are normal, but
Hmm.
also, being able to reflect on this experience is going to be the best part to get through it. It's a
Man,
lot.
well,
It's a lot.
well, I gotta tell you what I've been going through, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Mm-hmm.
I was online, and I've been online a lot, which I'm sure I'm gonna ask you about that question later. But
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine was saying how at her job they allowed them to talk about what's going on, and not the COVID, but what's going on in the community now with all of the riots and different things like that or whatever. And she was saying that that really helped her, and she was so glad that her job allowed them to do that, or allow them that platform. And
Yes.
so for me, I because my husband is so he's anti news right now, and anti, so he's like, I don't want to look at no news. I don't want to hear about none of this stuff, whatever. He's like, I'm just going to concentrate and do what I came, out here to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's like, God got me, so I'm good. And so I'm thinking, I should be thinking like him, like God got me. But I'm trying to tell you that
It's not that easy.
I have been so stressed, and I really haven't been able to talk to anybody about it, like just to kind of get it out of how I feel and different things like that. So I'm trying to deal with that. And then, like I was telling you earlier, we just relocated here. So at first we were not working. Then when we started working, then the COVID happened. So I'm like, oh my God, are we going to die? I got underlying issues too.
Right.
And I have an elderly, she's not
Mm-hmm.
elderly. I mean, she's not real elderly, but she's in her late 60s. My aunt is out here. So I'm worried about that. My brother has health issues. So I've just been over here just losing my doggone mind. Do you hear me, Tiffany? And so my question
Yes.
is, what I wanted to ask you was about the about social media. Do you think, and I know I kind of know what you're gonna say, but do you believe that social media and the news is more damaging than keeping us informed, especially for people like me who are
From
suffering with
anxiety.
anxiety, right?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. Because
Okay.
think about media as it is now. It's something that we actually do have a lot more control over than we've ever had. Think about,
Right.
back in the day, you had one newspaper or two newspapers, and a
Yeah,
little
that's
more,
it.
extra. Now, any channel you turn it on, even like your fun things you go to on the internet, will still show you news. And so it can be damaging if you can't manage or create boundaries for yourself. Because again, I'm subject to this too. It's less of my anxiety, more of my curiosity. Like, well, I just want to make sure I know enough. Because again, I'm always thinking about who I can help.
Right.
But but then I forget that, oh wait, I'm emotionally impacted by this. And so it can be difficult to be uninformed and like willfully uninformed.
Right.
And it can be helpful for a time, but eventually you're gonna have to reconnect, because you're a part of society, and this is your world that's not burning, but it's in
Mhm.
the process of it. And
Right.
so, I mean, for you, what I would encourage is just like, you got to have those breaks. I love the iPhone has that like little timer, like, hey, you've been on your Instagram 2 hours today. That's far too much. I'm gonna shut it down. So
Okay.
no more Instagram. So using those little barriers, and I mean, as far as your husband, like saying, I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
Now, if something happens and he hears something, he's gonna ask you, right? He's gonna want you to
Right.
be his news person. And
Right.
if you guys agree to that, that's fine in your
Yeah.
relationship. But like, I guess not just having that expectation, but actually talking about like, hey, I know you don't want to really know the news, but if what kind of things would you want me to tell you about? Because
Right.
if they're totally uninformed, they walk in a conversation, they look like somebody that just is apathetic and doesn't care. When in
Right.
reality, they're just trying to protect their own energy, and both are okay. But
Hmm.
you as their partner, you don't want them to be out there looking bad.
Right,
Um,
which is what I told him. I was saying that really I've just kind of been watching just to kind of be in the know of what's going on with the COVID and what's going on with the the rioting and everything. And I was like, because I want to be as a media person, of course, I
mhm.
want to know what's going
Be
on.
informed. Yeah.
I want to inform and present the correct information. And
Mhm.
then, for him, I'm like, I don't want you to walk somewhere or go somewhere and then, they're rioting down the street. We don't know about it because we haven't watched the news. And now you driving, into a
Mhm.
possible, violent situation. And so that's one of the reasons. But I think that it consumes me as far
Mhm.
as me just my feelings and how I feel. Cause like I know a lot of people across the country
Yeah.
were weeping. Like I wept when I saw the video of George Floyd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it just kind of it on top of the COVID, it just bothered me. So I was like, oh my God, he's they killed him and now this is going on and that's going on. What if this happens? What if this happens? So I'm like a what if person, and I know that I
Mhm.
should not be worrying, but I am. And so I feel
Mhm.
like sometimes like my husband just saying like, hey, you need to stop. You're on social
Mhm.
media like way too much.
Yeah.
So you need to just put your phone down and go somewhere, sit down somewhere.
Right. Yes. That's some healthy
Yeah.
advice, and also just the don't should yourself about it. Like I should not worry. Well,
Okay.
except that I am worrying, and you know what? I need to worry a little less. So what can I like? And you'll go into problem solving mode because that's the good thing about being anxious. Like, you know how to figure out some stuff,
Right.
and
Okay.
so but you have to direct your mind to get away from just staying in that emotional loop and like, all right, anxiety. What are we gonna do about it?
Okay.
I need. So like what I do is I only listen to like a 15-minute like news podcast in the
Okay.
morning. If I miss it, I just miss it that day. If
Mhm.
I'm getting emails, it's gonna be reputable news sources, and it's
Mhm.
just that email. I'm not clicking on any links. I'm just like, all right, just give me the basics. If you're not gonna give me the good information in the email, then it means I don't need to read it.
Okay.
And then as far as like your sites and stuff, like I said, putting that timer on your Insta and on your Facebook,
Mhm.
so that you're not getting into that I call it the rabbit hole of news
Mhm.
stories or videos, will really help. But it can't be this all or nothing, black or white. Again, you are in media, you need to be informed,
Yeah.
but you also got to protect your energy. And so even if it's like a couple of days a week where you're just like, you know
I'm
what,
not doing.
it'll
Yeah.
be on the news tomorrow, and I can miss
Mhm. Right.
Wednesdays and Sundays. I don't indulge in that kind of stuff. And so,
Yeah.
start small.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of hours less a day, and work your
Yeah.
way up to like a whole day, to where you can kind of like do your self care and really be
Right.
in tune with yourself and your body, because it
Okay.
does take a toll on it takes a toll on us physically. We
Yeah.
hold everything,
Mhm.
and so yeah, like I just don't want you to beat yourself up about feel guilty for feeling anxious. Like, you're
Right.
human, you're gonna feel these
Right.
feelings.
You're right.
But it can be hard. It can be hard to turn it off.
And can you talk about some how do people know that they're anxious? Like, are there some signs where people can pick up on, like, because like I was telling my husband, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like I really felt like I was almost about to have a nervous breakdown, but I couldn't
Mm,
express it to him.
right.
And like my words were not coming out. And so I'm like sleeping, not sleeping well, dreaming a lot, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just all over the place. And he's like, babe, what's going on with you? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you give some symptoms or some signs to know like, hey, you're dealing with this and you might need to do this?
Okay, so anxiety is an interesting emotion because it kind of goes. It has its ups and downs. So there's like a lot of activity, like the fight or flight response. You remember
Uh-huh.
that from science class? So when
Mhm.
you're in fight mode, that's where you're like on kind of antsy, like kind of vigilant, like kind of watching everything. You may
Okay.
be fidgety, leg jumping. You may
Okay.
talk faster. Um, like you said, not able to sleep.
Yeah.
And if you are sleeping, it's not very restful. Like you're not getting that REM sleep where you're like dreaming. And if you are dreaming, they're very vivid, very like
Very vivid.
very
Yeah.
sensory dreams because again, your brain is still so active that everything that you're processing is there. But then also anxiety can look like you slowing down and being kind of fearful, um, and or even overachieving, like being task oriented, like doing too much, having that long list and just workaholic. I'm just gonna keep doing stuff to keep my mind
Right.
busy. And
Yes.
so, you can be on both spectrums where, and then sometimes anxiety can wear you out to the point to where you're suffering from like depressive symptoms too. So that impacts sleep, it impacts your appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be anxious and want to eat all the time, or you can be anxious and not have an appetite.
At
Again, that's
all.
that
Okay.
fight or flight response. It just depends on how your nervous system responds.
Okay.
And then you can have numbness even because your blood flow is going to your heart and your systems that are trying to respond to a threat. And so you
Mm-hmm.
may feel like some tingling, numbness in your hands.
Okay.
Nausea can be a part of it too, because again, your your
Oh,
your your
okay.
digestive system shuts down when you're in fight or flight mode because you don't need to be digesting. It takes a lot of energy. Again, your
Oh,
brain thinks that you are under attack or you're under threat, and so it's getting ready
okay.
for something. And so that's why that energy is so overwhelming and exhausting because you're getting ready for a fight that you're not even fighting. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something we can't control. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID and things like that. And
Right.
again, all the people that you care about, being concerned about what's going to happen to them. So the best thing for when I work with my clients with anxiety, which are most of my clients, is
Mm-hmm.
that ask yourself the question and then find the answer. What anxiety does is it tries to find the answer without asking the question. So if you
Okay.
ask yourself the question, then it's going to put your brain into work. It's going to start working again. You're going to go out of, life or death mode, and you're going to go into processing. That's the, your big brain up here in the front. That's where you
Mm-hmm.
get like, okay, so I'm worried about my brother because he has diabetes. But hey, isn't he taking his medication? He said he really likes his doctor, and he's been wearing his mask. And you can ask yourself these questions and answer them, and then your anxiety doesn't have a reason to be there because all it's doing is trying to prepare you for something. Um, and when we don't have again the question and we're answering it without the question, we get
Uh-huh.
stuck in that cycle.
So that's what anxiety is. It's trying to
Mm-hmm.
answer, it's trying to prepare you.
Yep, it's fight or flight. It's fight or flight, fight, flight, or freeze. It's those are three things that our brains do to protect us
Okay.
in threatening situations. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that. What
Yeah,
about the formulation, like not being able to talk, like not being able to really just kind of express yourself?
right. Because that's again your frontal cortex, is big. The big part of your brain is shut down. Like it's that primal like life or death brain, and so it's shutting down all that eloquence and all that ability to speak
Yeah.
because it's like we don't need to be talking. We need to get out of here. Like your brain's like no.
Okay.
You don't need to. Don't explain yourself. Stop that. Go. And so that's why you have to get that self talk going. Like hold on, brain. We are okay. We are safe. So it's something called grounding. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So grounding is just a term that we use in, people use it all the time, but it's really about reconnecting with your body so that that fight or flight calms down.
Okay.
So it could be mentally where you're like you might just look in the room and just count everything that's blue in the room. And that's distracting your brain from the anxious feelings enough for you to be like, okay, wait, what was I anxious about? And
Okay.
then you can kind of process it. Or it can be music, it can be sensory. I love lavender. It's a good, relaxing scent. Just kind of having like a little roller, smell it on your shoulder, and kind of like distract your brain from all that anxiety. So
Okay.
grounding is a good way to kind of get you to a place where you can even ask yourself, "What's going on right now that I'm
Mhm.
anxious?" And then you can maybe able to, articulate again. But you got to
Okay.
slow everything down before you can do all of that.
Okay. Okay. What do you have you ever suggested? I think we talked about this before. CBD or
Well,
music, anything?
music. I love essential oils. I think they are the easiest way to kind of avoid any other consequences
Yeah.
that I could give as a professional. But
Right.
yeah, essential oils are great, and they all have different properties. And smell is our strongest sense that has like
Oh,
memory
okay.
attached to it. So think about it, like you can smell something that smells like your grandma and you haven't, your grandma passed away when you were 5, and you can still remember that smell. It's a lot easier than maybe sight or even sound.
Okay.
So having scents that are comforting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Music is great too.
Okay.
Instrumental music, especially when you're anxious, is probably better because again, you don't want the suggestive
Word.
words kind of,
Right.
creating more like confusion in your mind. I'm partial to jazz and like
Mm-hmm.
the hip hop jazz, but whatever suits you. But just knowing what it takes exploration to do that. You have to kind of try stuff out, and that's kind of what makes therapy a helpful tool because you're
Yeah.
trying it out with the therapist and you're not alone in it. But you can do it with your friends or family. It's not something you have to go to therapy for.
Right.
But just doing your own research and figuring out what connects to
Works
you.
for me. Okay.
Hmm.
I had been watching a lot of TV. I had been, you know how everybody's binge watching their shows during the COVID or whatever. And so when I found myself getting anxious, I would turn on this show that I was binge watching that I absolutely love, and I would just kind of let it
Get
take me away, and
getting lost in somebody in another
yeah,
world. So yeah,
I was
reading
all I was
books.
all in their business, even though
Yes,
TV and make
yes.
believe, I was like, okay, I'm in their business, so I don't worry about anything. So that's okay too.
Yes,
Yeah.
TV is again as long as it's not triggering for any other
Right. Okay.
stuff, because
Hmm.
we ain't gonna go talk about how COVID is pulling up everybody's trauma.
Oh,
Like
Lord.
that's a whole
Oh
episode.
Lord, that's a whole
But
nother
yes, TV
show.
is fine. TV is fine
Okay.
because again, our brains when we're watching somebody else, we're really experiencing it just like they are, and so it's a good way to maybe even get through emotions. I use TV and shows to get my tears
Yeah.
out when I can't cry. Like, all right,
Yeah.
let me watch something real sappy so I can
Right.
just get that stuff out, and so that's okay as well, as long as you're not neglecting the rest of your care, like
Okay.
showering and eating and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Binge
Yeah.
watch a show, it won't hurt you.
Okay. Good. So, well, I'm gonna I want to wrap up the show, but I wanted to ask a couple of more questions. So you
Hmm.
guys, all you guys that are just tuning in, we're Food for the Soul, intimate conversations with my special guest, Tiffany Lindley, therapist of Epiphany. What is it? Epiphany
Lane counseling.
Lane Counseling.
Yes.
Okay. I,
Get on the journey.
yeah,
That's what I'm all about.
I would know that. So my last question before we get out of here is, what do you think we will see in mental health issues this summer? Like
Mm.
after a lot of this is over, what kind of things do you think that will be seen? And my second part of that is, how do you think this is affecting our kids?
Okay, so that's I was going to actually start talking about youth. Is
Mhm.
that you may see more depression because again, a lot of people have been in this high anxiety cycle, and so
Mhm.
now the threat, if the threat does diminish, then depression usually, I like to say, it shows up. They're like, I call them cousins. They're on the same block.
Okay.
Anxiety is the one having a party, just acting a fool.
Right.
Depression is just waiting. And so sometimes it'll hit you where you have no energy. You're very drained, you're sleeping all the time or not sleeping enough. You get those symptoms, and then some of that hopelessness may come up because it's like, I've endured this thing and I haven't made meaning of it. And
Oh,
all depression is about is like, again, finding the meaning, because we don't feel a sense of loss unless something meant something to us. So we need to have a sense of value, and so being able to process that with each other, with our families, is going to be important, because just holding on to that is just going to make that weight even heavier. And so I will see. I could anticipate more people, experiencing depressive symptoms, maybe more anxiety, more agitation. That's what I mean. More like anger, like
mhm.
we're seeing with the social unrest. People being more irritable and short. But I do see, like, on social media, people are encouraging, you
Yeah.
know, grace, and not saying you got to forgive tomorrow. Like, I'm not a proponent of forgiving right away. That's because you haven't processed it if you're forgiving right
Right.
away.
Okay.
But to be able to just like express anger, because it's an emotion of change. It means we need something to change. It
Mhm.
gives us it motivates us if it's used in the right way. So maybe a spike in some anxiety and anger kind of mixed together. For kiddos, not having school all these months, kind of losing their sense of
Man.
routine. uh, there are a lot of kids that are doing okay, but like, not having like summer camp and like doing their field
Right.
trips, and that's going to be hard. So you may see more of that. So parents really having to take on like some creativity and like getting the kids to do things that they wouldn't normally do, like, or going back to how we used to play back in the day, where hey, they're playing till the street lights are on, but somebody's got to be watching them, and
Right.
being able to let them be outside kids, because these the screens are not going to get them through the summer. They did screens for school, so now the
Yeah.
screen has lost its novelty. It's kind of like something they might want to avoid.
Right.
Um, so I would encourage parents to more outside time, more things that get their brain involved. These kids are really smart in this last couple of generations, and they need to be stimulated. Besides just interacting with the screen.
Right. And
So
that it actually it's funny that you say that because that might be a good thing. Only because of this generation of children, they're so used to being on their phones and playing games and everything. But because of the last 2 or 3 months, they're probably like, please, can I go outside? Mama, please, can I go
yes,
outside? And
yes,
they
I do.
run around in a driveway or in the backyard because they've been cooped up in the
Yeah,
house.
it's
Right?
funny when you don't have a choice. It's really funny the things that you
Yes.
value when they're
Yes.
taken away. And again, that's why I say like the sense of loss is not a terrible thing. It's
Hmm.
just something you have to process. You can't just feel that loss. You got to talk about it. You got to say what you miss. And
Right.
that's why I've loved like the parades and all the things that the teachers and schools have been doing to kind of commemorate the school year with the students, and kind of showing them, hey, I miss you. Like all of that is so valuable, because that human connection is what we're really missing. It's not all the stuff. It's not getting in the car and going anywhere. It's really just being able to connect face to face and be in each other's presence. So hopefully, if the summer, allows us to connect more, I just hope that we're finding positive ways to do that. And even if it does start with peaceful protesting, it
Yeah.
moves into us having conversations with each other and
Right.
us, organizing around ideas. Then nothing but good things can come from that.
Right. If I remember correctly, when we were together last was I well we were we talking about did I talk about Botham Jean at all?
Yes, they had just. I think they
That's
had just
what
finished his
I thought.
case. They had just finished his case because we were talking
That's
about.
what I thought. And so
Mhm.
just the last brief one. So remember we were I think we were talking about how the brother forgave. He
Yeah,
forgave. So well, we don't know if it was quickly. Well, I don't know if it was quickly
it
or not.
felt like it
And
felt very quick, because it
yeah,
was. We've heard about the brother. And then he's publicly forgave, and I'm like, that's so soon.
right. And so I the reason why I asked that is because I you just what you just saying that forgiveness takes a little bit of time for you to
Mm.
really kind of process everything. And so with the last question would be with what's going on as far as the George Floyd and all of the other senseless murders that have happened within the last week or two. This is ridiculous.
Hmm.
They're piling up. What would you say to some of the younger people who are out here who are just angry? Like,
Hmm.
what, if anything, what, where can they kind of channel their anger? Like where can they place it? What can,
Yes. Understanding how it started is
okay.
empowering. Um, Instead of just looking at what's happening right now, like we need context, and it's gonna make you more angry, but the anger is gonna be justified,
Mhm.
and and once you've acknowledged the anger, it doesn't have to bubble over. You can
Okay.
have that fire in your belly to keep moving without
Mhm.
it being like I want to hurt somebody,
Okay.
because it's like forgiveness as a collective, as a group. Black people need to forgive white people. Like that's kind of how we were always raised. We couldn't have gotten this far if we walked around with unforgiveness on all of our hearts,
Right.
Christian or not, even if you're not a person of faith, because
Right.
God does tell us to don't go to the altar until you're able to forgive,
Right.
because you can't walk around without forgiveness. And so it's a process that we're doing on a daily basis. For us to go into white spaces, we're showing a sense of forgiveness. But as
Right.
far as like radical forgiveness, where it's like there is no way that you can ever atone for what you've done, that's a process.
Okay.
And you can't just say, after the day after somebody was taken from you, oh, I forgive them. No, because you haven't experienced that loss. You're still depersonalized, which is a
Yeah.
process that we all go through when we grieve. Is that those 2 weeks after you lose someone, you're in a fog. You're making plans. You're doing all. You're busy, but you're emotionally not connected to that loss. And
Okay.
so as a group of people, because how Black people think, and how just even from Africa, even to anywhere in the diaspora, we just
Mhm.
see people as the most important thing on earth, and we rather endure pain than to hurt someone else. And so
No,
I
okay.
feel like we embody forgiveness just existing in this country.
Yeah.
However, our anger is justified, and we can't radically forgive and not ever ask for what we need until things change. And so
Okay.
we're gonna have to keep fighting and keep having anger, justified anger. We can't be complacent, but we have to be able to manage it by keeping it in context. Okay,
Okay.
the job I'm at, I feel not listened to. I don't feel like I'm valued. How can I communicate that? And what risk am I willing to take? So that's the other part, is that we have to be able to risk something in
Yes.
order for us to move forward. And that's what's happened. That's kind of how, the baby boomers, my mom's generation, like, hey, we did all that fighting stuff. So y'all just, go and thrive. And they didn't realize, like, no, they're not done. And
Yeah.
we got a little complacent. And so now, especially the last 5 to 10 years, it's just
Yes.
really hard to ignore it because it's in our
Yes.
face. That's how the civil rights movement worked. So
Right.
that's what I'm saying. Having kids look back, look at your history. This
Yes.
is the
Yes.
same stuff.
Really.
60s, the 60s, the only reason it worked is because TV, because of media. Because they
Right.
didn't believe it. White people did not believe what was going on.
Yes.
And so now it's a catch-22 now because they're overexposed to it, and
Mm.
they're not it's not processing, and they're able to ignore it. And so that's why we have to take to the streets to, like, you can't ignore this. I'm sorry, you don't like hearing these videos, we don't like hearing them either, so let's figure out how to stop it.
Okay.
So yeah, so learn your history,
Okay.
know your history, and use your anger as a motivator, not as a reason to be violent. There may be violent things that you say or do, but don't just be full of rage, because rage is just anger without any focus. We want our
Okay.
anger to be focused, directed,
Right.
and forward moving, because we're not going to get change if we're all over the place just mad.
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. And I loved what Killer Mike said. I don't know if you saw the video,
Mm-hmm.
like, plan, strategize, and now is the time for us to be doing those types of things. And so because our kids are so media driven, I was just kind of looking for movies and stuff to suggest for them to watch so you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of see the history. Because sometimes history is boring. I know I hated history. But watching
But
a
who taught you
documentary.
history? Like,
Huh?
whose history were you learning? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
right, right, right.
If
That's
you
that's
can't
that's
put yourself in the place
then
in
it's
that
kind of like,
time, it's
what
gonna
is
be
going
boring as
on?
hell. It's
Right,
not
right,
gonna connect to you. So yeah, I
right.
get it.
But I love documentaries though, and so I've just been kind of looking for documentaries and different things like that to kind of really educate myself as well. Because a lot of us, older people are not really educated. We've learned something for so long or things for so long, and now we're realizing that those things were not what they really were. So now we're having to
Mhm.
go back and relearn with with all of our kids now. So
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's actually a great thing, because that was
mhm,
one of the issues with, again, civil rights movement. It was
yes,
generationally split. We have an opportunity to have maybe 3 to 4 generations combine, like, having the same focus, and
yeah,
not half of the generation saying we need to keep things as they are, don't make any waves,
right,
and the young people are the only ones out there putting themselves at risk. When we're if we all put ourselves at risk, we're actually stronger together. My
yeah.
favorite quote from was it James Baldwin? I have a little pin with his face on it. People never know. I'm like, who's that guy? You got James
I think
Baldwin.
I just
To
said it.
be
Tell me.
to be a black in America is to be in a constant state of rage. So we got
Oh,
we've learned how to manage our anger. It's just
mhm.
a matter of, like, what do we do with it now? And
Oh,
so I agree, Cliff, Mike. We got to be strategic, and because the fear is going to be there, whether we're calm, whether we're
yeah,
non-confrontational. So why save it? Why press it down? It's
yeah,
already accepted. So
yeah. Let's figure out how to do something with it and make it work for us.
exactly.
And so I agree. So Tiffany, tell the people how they can contact you and give us all your social media handles. And will you be doing any counseling over the phone?
I do online counseling. I work with a record system that I can book it and we can video. I am seeing clients in person with precautions, mask, and all that stuff in the Dallas
Okay.
area. The curfew is impacting the time. So again, if you just need a face-to-face session, we'll just have to work it out just so that we can, obey the law
Okay.
and not have any issues there. But
Okay.
I'm at my website, Epiphany Lane Counseling, all one word, epiphanylanecounseling.com. That's EPIPHANYLANECOUNSELING. Spelling bee champion, fifth grade. There you go. And then same handle for Instagram at Epiphany
Mhm.
Lane Counseling, or my private is Magnificent, just for my personal page.
Okay.
And then same thing on Facebook, Epiphany Lane Dallas, Epiphany Lane DTX. So I'm on all the things.
Okay.
But yeah, please follow. I like to post motivational things and wisdom and just encourage each other and encourage other Black therapists and other mental health professionals and
Hmm.
just activists. And I try to promote everybody because I'm all about everybody reaching their potential,
Okay.
so that we can all, do better together.
Right. Okay. Okay, well, if you don't mind, can you post in our stream right here? If you can post your some of your social media handles, because you was talking so super duper fast, and I'm
Yes,
like, I
sir.
could try and post them for you, but I mean, like,
I
what you
will.
say?
Yeah. Hey,
What you
story
say?
story of my life.
And I haven't spelled since the sixth grade, so I really am like, what? That's the
You
last time I was in any type of spelling bee anything. And so yeah, that
I
was.
will type it in right here. So that's the
Thank you.
website.
Thank you.
And
Well,
that
we thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, you guys, to catch us live every Monday and Friday. This month we are talking about this cruel summer. Friday, Bobby and I will be back reviewing another movie, and we'll tell you what it is later, so you'll be able to try and deal with his shenanigans like I deal with whatever he has going on in
yes,
his
I
life
have.
right now.
Yes, I have watched y'all's reviews. Y'all gave me a good
Man,
chuckle.
I'm saying he's so he's so
Man.
anti everything. So so it's fun to dig apart movies with him. But you guys, I want to thank you, Tiffany, so much for coming on. And remember, you guys, if we don't share, then how can we help? Let's root for each other and help each other grow. And I thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you, Talisa. Call me anytime. You know
I
I love talking
will.
to your sister. All
Okay.
right. Be
Talk to you
blessed.
later.
This feels nice. Our easy conversation. Ooh, this feels so nice. Our easy conversation. I really like when you speak to me. It feels so tight. Never front. You want me to tell you straight.
See you guys later.